In a bustling town where streets hummed with the rhythm of life, lived a young man named Elias, whose days slipped away like sand through careless fingers. He was bright and curious, but his hours vanished in idle chatter with friends in endless games and in promises of tomorrow that never came. While his books lay closed on the desk, collecting dust, he spent evenings under the never worked for his teachers, often warned him that wasted time never returns, but he brushed their words aside, saying, "There is always tomorrow." One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in shades of fire, Elias wandered alone through a quiet path away from the noise of his friends. There, he noticed an old man sitting on a stone, his eyes sharp yet kind, his hands holding a worn pocket watch that ticked softly like a heartbeat. Elias greeted him politely, and the old man looked at him with a knowing smile. "Young man," he said, "your face carries the glow of potential, yet your eyes carry the shadow of delay. Tell me, how do you spend your hours?" Elias laughed lightly, saying, "Hours are many, life is long. I will do what I must in time." The old man's smile faded as he held up the watch, its ticking louder than before. "Do not mistake the abundance of days for eternity. Time is the most loyal friend when respected, and the most merciless enemy when ignored." Elias felt uneasy at the words, yet he dismissed them with a shrug. But as he turned to leave, the old man's voice followed him like an echo, heavy with mystery. "Sooner than you think, young man, you will learn what it means to respect your time." The next morning, Elias woke to the sound of bells from the town square. The world moved swiftly around him, but he lingered lazily on his bed, promising himself that work would begin tomorrow. He strolled through the streets, watching traders arranging their stalls, craftsmen hammering at their benches, and children rushing with their books toward the school. He noticed how every hand was busy, every face focused, except his. His friends called him over, and soon he was lost in laughter and games. While the hours melted home, his books remained untouched, and his tasks undone. His father looked at him with silent disappointment, but said nothing, hoping his son would one day understand that life waits for no one. That evening, Elias wandered again down the quiet path where he had met the old man before, and to his surprise, the figure was there, still seated upon the same stone, as though he had not moved at all. The pocket watch in his hand ticked steadily, the sound sharp against the silence. Elias forced a laugh and said, "Old man, your watch seems never to rest. Does it not tire of ticking?" The man's eyes narrowed, and he replied, "The watch is not what weakens with every passing second." Elias frowned, but could not shake the unease. The words stirred inside him like a warning, yet pride pushed him to reply lightly, "I still have many days ahead of me. Why should I fear the passing of a few hours?" The old man leaned. "Young man, the few hours you waste are the very bricks upon which your future is built. Remove them, and one day you will find yourself standing before a house it with a smile." And as he turned away, again the watch ticked louder, echoing in his chest, leaving him restless through the night. Days rolled into weeks, and Elias continued to float on the river of delay, though the old man's words echoed faintly in his heart. He buried them under the noise of laughter and the comfort of laziness. While his companions grew sharper with their studies, Elias spent his nights in idle tales and his mornings in heavy sleep. One afternoon he joined his friends in a nearby field where they played until the sun burned low in the sky. Upon returning home, Elias found his father waiting at the door with a letter in his hand, the wax seal broken, and his eyes filled with concern. It was from the academy, reminding that examinations were near and urging all students to prepare earnestly. His father spoke softly, "Elias, this is your chance to shape your path. Do not let it slip away." Elias nodded with a careless grin, Yet in his heart, a knot tightened that night. While the village lay silent, Elias sat by his desk, staring at his books, the pages, heavy and unfamiliar, like doors locked against him. He opened one, tried to read, but the words blurred and his thoughts scattered. His mind returned again and again to the image of the old man and that chase him. Even in silence he slammed the book shut, frustrated, and muttered, "There is still time, tomorrow will be better." But as he drifted into an easy sleep, he dreamed of standing before a crumbling house, its walls falling because bricks were missing, and somewhere in the shadows the old man whispered, "This is the house of your tomorrow, built from the hours you have wasted." Elias woke with sweat on his brow and a racing heart, yet even then pride held him back from change, and he promised himself once more, tomorrow will be different. The morning sun rose bright, but Elias carried the weight of his strange dream as he walked through the bustling market. Every vendor, every craftsman, every child seemed to move with purpose, their hands shaping their future. With each passing hour, while his own steps dragged without aim, he stopped by the fountain where his friends gathered, laughing and boasting of small victories. One spoke proudly of mastering a lesson, another of preparing early for exams. Elias laughed along, pretending not to feel the sharp sting in his chest that he too should have been ready. His thoughts drifted again to the old man and the image of the collapsing house with missing bricks that haunted his sleep. Unable to bear the unease, he returned to the quiet path, and as if time itself awaited him, the old man was there again, the pocket watch gleaming in the sunlight. Elias approached with forced cheer, yet his voice trembled. "You trouble my thoughts with dreams and warnings. Old man, why do you follow me?" The man's gaze was steady. "I do not follow you, young one, it is your wasted," and asked, "What harm is there in a few days of leisure?" The man lifted the watch higher, the ticking now sharp like a hammer, striking metal. Leisure is sweet when earned by effort, but poison when stolen from duty. Each hour lost is a seed that never grows, and one day you will search for its fruit in vain." Elias swallowed hard for the first time. Fear pricked his heart, yet pride still wrapped him in denial. He turned away quickly, muttering under his breath, "I still have tomorrow." But as he left, the old man's voice echoed behind him, "Tomorrow is the most dangerous lie of all." The days to the examination grew fewer, and the pressure around Elias tightened like a noose. His classmates studied with feverish dedication, their lamps glowing through the night, while Elias still drifted between short bursts of effort and long hours of distraction. Each time he sat with his books, the words seemed heavier than before, the sentences slipping from his grasp as if mocking his neglect. He felt himself drowning in a sea of lost chances, yet clung stubbornly to the thought that a miracle might save him. One evening, he walked through the marketplace and noticed how even the youngest apprentice worked with careful hands, shaping wood or stitching cloth, their faces lit with focus, while he carried only a shadow of regret. Upon his return home, his father's voice carried, "Chance, if you respect your time, now the path will open before you. But if you waste it further, the doors may never open again." Elias nodded half-heartedly, his pride refusing to admit the truth that he had already wasted too much that night. As he sat staring at his unread books, the ticking of the old man's watch echoed in his mind louder than before, and he whispered angrily to himself, "Why does that sound haunt me?" As he drifted into a troubled sleep, he dreamed once more of the collapsing house, now reduced to rubble, with only the watch lying among the ruins ticking without end. From the shadows the old man appeared, his voice reflection of the life you are. Awake, his heart pounding, sweat on his brow, but even then he whispered stubbornly to himself, "I will try. Tomorrow will be enough." The week of the examination arrived, and the town pulsed with urgency, every student hurried with books in hand, every household spoke of preparation and hope, while Elias felt like a man standing still. As the river of time rushed past him, he opened his notes in panic. But the words were strangers he had never welcomed, and his memory betrayed him like an empty well. His friends no longer lingered for idle talk, their faces isolated in his careless routine. One evening, unable to bear the silence of his home, Elias wandered again to the quiet path, and there, as if waiting for the very moment, the old man sat upon the stone, the pocket watch gleaming like fire. Elias approached with heavy steps, his pride crumbling under the weight of fear, and he cried, "Why does this watch torment me? Why do your words chase me?" The old man lifted the watch, its ticking loud as thunder, because young, the time you have betrayed, every second you ignored, has returned as a voice in your soul. Elias fell to his knees, trembling, and whispered, "I still have some days left. Can I not make up for the hours I lost?" The man's face softened, and he said, "Time forgives only those who honor it from the start. The path ahead is never closed, but the cost of delay is heavy, heavier than you can imagine." Elias looked into the man's eyes, desperate for hope, but saw only the reflection of his own wasted days, and as he turned to leave, the watch struck louder than ever, echoing in his chest like a countdown he could not silence. The night before the first examination arrived, and Elias sat at his desk, staring at the mountain of unread pages before him. His hands shook as he turned them desperately, but nothing would stay in his mind. The hours slipped past like water in a broken jar, and he felt the crushing weight of all the moments he had wasted in careless laughter and empty promises of tomorrow. Outside, his window lamps glowed in every house where other students bent earnestly over their work, while silence filled his own room, broken only by the ticking of a clock that seemed to grow louder with every passing minute. He pressed his head into his hands, whispering, "I am not ready, I have no strength left." Suddenly, his mind filled with the image of the old man, his watch gleaming, as he spoke words that had once felt like riddles, but now cut like truth. "Tomorrow is the most dangerous lie of all." Elias felt tears sting his eyes. For the first time he understood the warning, but it was too late. The night fled swiftly, and dawn crept across the horizon, carrying with it the weight of judgment. When the bell rang in the town square calling students to the examination, Elias felt his legs heavy as stone. Every step toward the academy was a step into the harvest of wasted hours, and as he entered the hall his heart pounded with dread. For the first time he truly feared that his tomorrow had already been stolen. The great hall of the academy was filled with silence, broken only by the scratch of pens and the rustle of papers. As the examination began, Elias sat frozen before his sheet, the questions staring back at him like locked brow. His hands trembled, and his mind remained as empty as the pages he had neglected night after night. Around him his classmates bent with focus, their pens moving swiftly, powered by the discipline of countless hours they had respected. Elias bit his lip, struggling to recall in fragments of lessons, but his thoughts drifted back only to the careless laughter beneath the tree, the idle walks through the market, the endless games, and the echo of the old man's voice, telling him each wasted hour was a missing brick in the house of his future. The weight of shame pressed upon him so heavily he could barely breathe. Time slipped away mercilessly. The invigilator's call of 10 minutes left thundered in his ears, and his pen moved in frantic scribbles that made little sense. When the final bell rang, he placed his paper down, and felt his heart sink lower than ever. Leaving the hall, he could not meet the eyes of his peers, for their faces carried the glow of effort, while his carried only despair. Stumbling outside, he followed the quiet path once more, and there, as though waiting with cruel patience. The old man sat upon the stone, the watch in his hand ticking with a sound that matched the beating of Elias's broken heart. Elias fell to the ground before him and whispered, "Tell me, is there no hope left for me?" The old man looked down at Elias, with eyes that carried both sorrow and wisdom, the pocket watch in his hand glowing softly as if holding the very man. "Hope never dies, but its cost grows heavier with every hour you waste." Elias lifted his head, his voice trembling. "I see now how I have betrayed my own future, but tell me, can I still rise?" The old man placed the watch upon Elias's palm and said, "This watch holds no magic. It only reminds you that every second is a seed, and the harvest depends on how you plant it. If you begin today, you're harder than it would have been had you honored time from the start." Elias clutched the watch, feeling its steady ticking against his skin like a heartbeat. He stood with new determination burning inside him and whispered, "I will not delay again. I will fight for every moment left." As he turned to leave, the old man's figure seemed to fade into the air, yet his voice lingered like an echo. "Remember, with the hours you now respect." Elias walked back to the village, with his steps firmer than ever. Though the weight of failure still pressed upon him, he felt for the first time that he could rebuild his life. But as he reached home, he saw his father waiting at the door with the results of the examination. The test of his resolve was only beginning. Elias stood before his father, whose hands held the sealed envelope containing the examination results. His heart pounded like a drum as his father opened it slowly and read in silence. The weight of those moments pressed harder than any burden Elias had ever known. At last, his father looked at him with eyes filled not with anger, but with quiet disappointment, and said, "You have failed, my son." The words cut deep, sharper than any blade, and Elias lowered his head in shame, yet beneath the sorrow, a new fire stirred within him. He remembered the old man's voice echoing through his soul, "Hope never dies, but its cost grows heavier with every hour wasted." Elias took a deep breath and spoke with firmness, "For the first time, Father, I have failed because I did not respect my time, but I will not live in failure. I will change from this moment onward." His father studied him carefully, then nodded with a faint glimmer of hope in his weary eyes. The days that followed were no longer filled with idle laughter or wasted hours. Elias rose with the sun, worked with discipline, and treated each hour like a treasure. His friends noticed the change, and some mocked him at first, but soon they too began to follow his example, inspired by the transformation. The quiet path where he once met the old man became his place of reflection. Though the stone was now empty and the watch was gone, its ticking remained alive in his heart, guiding every choice. Months later, Elias sat for another test, and this time his effort shone through, bringing success that was not only his own, but also his family's pride. Standing at the gates of the academy, he whispered to himself, "Respect your time, for it is the truest wealth of all." And with that, his journey turned from regret into a lesson for every soul who crossed his path.